Alamo, the spark that lit the fuse of Texas independence. When we think of it, we think of men like William B. Travis, Davy Crockett, Jim Bowie, James Fannin, Juan Seguin, General Santa Anna, and Phil Collins, the rock star?
What in the world could Phil Collins possibly have to do with the Alamo? Well, things change, don't they? And so do people. It seemed as though Phil Collins' personal history had already been written. Rock star. But apparently that changed. Do you think your personal history has already been written? Think again. Maybe you're good at sports, or science, or the arts. You think your personal history will read baseball player, business owner, engineer, writer, physician, or whatever your interest. But what if things changed? What if circumstances in your family were altered? What if the demand for your talent faded away? What if someone or some organization needed you to do something different for them? What if you had a career-ending injury? Could you adapt? Could you change? Could you rewrite your own history?
You know Phil Collins the musician through his work with the band Genesis, as well as his solo work. But did you know he started out as a child actor? He even had some film credits as an adult. Phil started out playing the drums as a youngster in Great Britain, and by the time he was 19, he was behind the kit permanently for Genesis. Soon, life threw him a curveball when the band's lead singer, Peter Gabriel, left to pursue a solo career. After auditioning literally hundreds of vocalists, guess who ended up having to take over singing duties? Phil Collins. Immediately, Phil had to hire a drummer to handle duties during concert tours, so he could get out on the stage and be the front man for the band. It turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to the band commercially. With this bold move, Phil Collins and Genesis found the unique sound that made the band a worldwide phenomenon. This would never have happened had Phil and the other band members not been willing to change, to try something new, to rewrite their own history. Phil's unique vocal style so captivated his listeners that he was able to even launch a successful solo career.
The hurt doesn't show, the pain still grows, so stranger to you and me. I can feel it coming in the air.
Phil went on to write music for movies, including Disney, even receiving an Oscar for his work. But soon enough, as his personal history continued to unfold, it was rewritten again. Phil began having spinal cord problems. To quote him, "I've got a condition that means I can't play anymore. After playing drums for 50 years, I've had to stop. My vertebrae has been crushing my spinal cord because of the position I drum in. It comes from years of playing. I can't even hold the sticks properly without it being painful." Phil Collins had to make a change. He could easily have let himself be consumed by his new situation, become terminally depressed, and just given up. It isn't easy for anyone to face the possible end of such an important chapter in life and just turn the page, but he did. Phil had been quietly pursuing another interest that few knew about: Texas history, in particular the Alamo. A Brit interested in the Alamo? That's right. From about the age of 5, he'd been fascinated with the story of the battle, its heroes, and its meaning and place in history. It started with movies, television, and role-playing in the yard, and eventually led to an impassioned search for genuine artifacts from the battle itself. As his music career and bank account grew, so did his ability to find and purchase items of interest until Phil Collins, unbeknownst to the rest of the world, had amassed the largest known collection of Alamo artifacts on Earth. But that was only the beginning of this new chapter in the history of Phil Collins. As he spent more and more time away from music, he didn't just let that time go to waste. Phil used that time to rewrite his own history by becoming a historian. Not just a collector, but a historian in the truest sense of the word, as he uncovered the story behind each item he acquired, weaving them all into a complete narrative of one of the most important events in the life of Texas. In fact, his narrative was so thorough that he was able to compile it, along with photos of his collection, into a book that now falls into the ranks of the greatest works on the Alamo ever put into print. Its title, The Alamo and Beyond, A Collector's Journey. Even the curator of the Alamo itself, Dr. Richard Bruce Winders, deemed Collins a serious contributor to our knowledge of the Alamo. William R. Tremerka, editor of the Alamo Journal, called his work an important research source, which helps us better understand the life and times of those who helped create the Texas Republic. And the history department at McMurray University in Abilene, Texas, who collaborated with Phil on the book, were impressed enough with the quality of his scholarship to award him an honorary doctorate in history.
I wish all the graduates all the best of luck. All I can say is be confident in everything you do without being arrogant. Arrogant is very unpleasant, but confidence is essential. And be adventurous, but don't be dumb. So seriously, thank you very much for this honorary doctorate. I will treasure it, and I shall return. Thank you very much.
But the story doesn't end there. In late June of 2014, Phil Collins came to the Alamo with a big announcement, and I, your esteemed narrator, was there to witness it. I'm in the second news clip, top left, the bald guy.
A short time ago involving a donation of some historic artifacts. They come from a very private collection and involve the Alamo, a symbol, of course, of America's resilience. Items like Jim Bowie's knife and one of Davy Crockett's rifles are being given to the state of Texas. But what might surprise you is the identity of the very generous donor. It's Phil Collins. That's right, the Phil Collins, the pop singing legend and musician, and he joins us live on Skype from the Alamo. Hi, Phil. How are you doing today?
I'm very good, thank you.
So tell me a little bit about how you first became fascinated with the Alamo.
Grammy Award-winning pop star Phil Collins said on Thursday that his music wealth helped him to satisfy a boyhood fascination with the Alamo, and he would donate his extensive collection of artifacts from the 1836 battle for a museum at the Texas Shrine. Collins said he became fascinated with the Alamo story when he was growing up in the 1950s watching the television series Davy Crockett, King of the Wild Frontier, starring Fess Parker.
So, someone you once knew as a musician is now set to become one of the largest benefactors to the preservation of Texas history, all because he was willing to rewrite his own history. Here's something for you to consider. As his collection moves to Texas and a new building is built around it, within 10 years or so, Phil Collins, a rock star from Great Britain, will be as much associated with our Alamo as will the Americans and Mexicans who fought there. In fact, 100 years in the future, it's entirely possible that people may not even remember him as a musician at all, but instead as an important historian. And not just for 100 years, but for as long as there is an Alamo, as long as there's a Texas.
It's a pretty exciting day here at the cradle of Texas liberty. And the first words out of my mouth are going to be, "Thank you, Phil Collins." You know, we have an example of incredible generosity from a man who is a true Texan, from a man that knows more about the Alamo and Texas history than 99.9999% of those of us who live here, who had Texas history in the 4th grade, Texas history in the 7th grade. We have a man who is a historian, a benefactor, and I have to tell you, I've been around him a couple of times, just a down-to-earth, normal, unassuming, pleasant guy to have a chat with. We are announcing formally today that Phil Collins has decided to contribute, donate, convey, whatever term you wish to use, his extensive, the most extensive collection of Alamo memorabilia, artifacts, documents, to the people of Texas. So help me now give a huge, raucous, boisterous welcome to our friend, Mr. Phil Collins.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This is a very special day for me because I've had a love affair with this place since I was about 5 years old. We grew up with Walt Disney and Fess Parker and King of the Wild Frontier, and then a little later we grew up with John Wayne's version of what happened here. And I was, even at 5 years old, I was totally hooked. For me, it was just something that stuck with me. And you know, I come from London, so we have lots of history there. Why I didn't get as fascinated by something in English history, I'll never know. It was here, San Antonio, the Alamo, the shape of that church. It was just something I used to go and play in the garden with my soldiers. And I never even dreamed at that point that I would be collecting. I got together with Kay Tucker, who is Jerry's assistant, and I guess the word was out that I was looking for something to do with the collection, and she said, well, the Alamo would like it. And I was like a dog with two tails, as they say in England. I just could not believe it, that the exact place where my collection should be housed, should live, is the place where it came from. There's things that I have that have never been back here since the day they left in 1836. And I am so proud to have this place as the home for it. And it's great pleasure for me to forget about the money, you know, it's a big, expensive collection, and I'm just so pleased that people will, like me, visitors will be able to come and learn more about what happened here, learn more about the people that were involved in those events on both sides of the wall. This collection would help to tell that story, and I'm just over the moon that I've been given the opportunity to find a home like this for it. So thank you for coming out. Thank you for Jerry, and it really is my pleasure.
Thank you, Phil Collins.
Thank you, Phil Collins. Thank you, Phil Collins. What a great story about someone you may have thought you knew. When his band Genesis took off, even Phil Collins thought his history was already written. Famous rock musician. But things changed. This is what happens as history marches on. But maybe, along the way, we can rewrite our own personal history, if we're willing to try something new. Phil was willing to try vocals, and look where it took him. And then later in life, he was willing to try collecting, based on something he'd been interested in long ago as only a child. Now he's enjoying himself again, and Texas has a new friend. All because he changed. He adapted. Can you? What are your interests, your talents? Are you willing to try something new with them? And what if someday things change and you can't effectively use those talents anymore? Are you willing to try something else? To become someone new? Or are you willing to rewrite your own history? I'm Greg Hensley, drummer, businessman, school teacher, and now documentary filmmaker. Thanks for watching.